Let me tell you something about timing. It's never random. Whether someone is showing up right when you've moved on or they're reaching out during a vulnerable moment, there's always a reason behind it. Timing is a tool, sometimes a weapon, and people who return after you've distanced yourself often use it to their advantage. After posting my last video, Why They Return After You Go No Contact, I was blown away by the feedback. Thank you. So many of you shared your experiences, and one pattern that kept standing out was that they always come back at the perfect time. Your birthday, a holiday, even during a tough moment in your life, or sometimes they show up claiming that their own struggles brought them back. Today, we're going to break down what's really behind those well-timed returns, and more importantly, how to protect your peace when it happens. If you haven't seen that first video yet, make sure you check it out. This one will build on everything we've talked about before. There's something deeply symbolic about birthdays and holidays. These are the moments when we're naturally more reflective, we're more open, and yes, more vulnerable. A birthday, that's your personal new year. That's a time when you're celebrating yourself, and they know that. It's no coincidence that they choose this moment to reach out because they want to attach themselves to your celebration. It's not about you. It's about their desire to feel included, to remind you that they still exist in your world. But let's get deeper into why they pick these times. They know your defenses might be lower. During a holiday, emotions run high. There's joy, nostalgia, even a sense of longing for what once was. They're betting on these feelings to soften your resolve and to make you forget why you distanced yourself in the first place. And when it's your birthday, they're banking on you feeling sentimental, reflecting on the people who've been in your life. Here's the catch. When someone genuinely values you, they don't wait for a special occasion to show it. They're consistent, present, and thoughtful all year round. So when they just pop up during those key moments, it's often less about celebrating you and more about them trying to wiggle their way back in. Tragedy is another powerful trigger. Whether it's your loss or theirs, these are the moments that are emotionally charged, and they know it. If it's your loss, they'll reach out saying something like, I just heard about what happened and I just wanted you to know that I'm still here for you. And let's be honest, that message can feel very comforting at first. You might even think, wow, they still care. But do they? Or are they just using your vulnerability as an opening to reestablish a connection? Now let's talk about when they're the ones experiencing a loss. So maybe they've lost a family member, a job, or even just had a tough day. And suddenly they're reaching out to you for comfort. It feels like they're trusting you, they're leaning on you, but what's the intention? Often it's about finding someone who will make them feel better without addressing the actual problem. They know that you're kind-hearted and you're empathetic and that you'll respond. Here's where you have to pause and ask yourself, are they truly seeking to reconnect? Or are they just looking for someone to fill a void? Because while there's nothing wrong with being there for someone, you have to recognize when their need is actually draining you. And let's be clear, someone who only seeks you out in their low moment isn't prioritizing you. They're using you as a band-aid. Manipulation doesn't always come in the form of grand gestures or overt lies. Sometimes it's very, very subtle. It's the way they phrase their messages, the way they appeal to your better nature. So they'll say something like, I've been struggling so much and I didn't know who else to turn to. Or I just needed someone to talk to and you're the only person who ever understood me. Sound familiar? Those words are designed to make you feel special, to tap into your empathy, and to make you forget all the reasons why you went no contact in the first place. But let's get even deeper into this dynamic. The manipulation works because it plays on the part of you that still cares, that still wants to believe the good in people. And it's not just about them gaining access, it's about them controlling the narrative. When they frame their return as a cry for help, they're shifting the focus from their past behavior to their present need. It's a very clever way to bypass all accountability. And this is why awareness is key. Recognizing manipulation doesn't make you cold or unkind. It makes you wise, and it allows you to see through their act and to protect your energy. Remember, someone who genuinely cares about you won't need to guilt trip you or pity their way back into your life. Nostalgia is a powerful emotion, and they know that. So they'll bring up old memories like, remember that time we stayed up all night just talking? Or I was just thinking about how much fun we used to have during the holidays. It's all a calculated move to make you relive the good times and overlook the bad. But here's the thing about nostalgia. It's selective. It cherry picks the highlights, the moments that felt magical, and then it conveniently leaves out the hurt, the arguments, the disrespect. And when you're feeling lonely or vulnerable, it's easy to get swept up into those memories and you start questioning your decision to let them go. This is why it's so important to stay grounded in reality. Yes, you had good times. Yes, there were moments of connection. But those moments weren't enough to sustain the relationship, and they're certainly not enough to justify opening that door again. Nostalgia might make you feel warm and fuzzy, but it's not a reason to revisit a chapter that you've already closed. Recognizing patterns is your superpower. When you start to see that their returns are predictable, that they only happen during emotionally charged times, it becomes easier to detach. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You start to realize that their timing isn't about you. It's about them and their need for validation or comfort. Let's get practical for a moment. Pay attention to their behavior. Do they reach out on random, uneventful days, or is it always tied to a significant moment? Do they show genuine effort to rebuild trust, or are they just testing the waters to see if you'll respond? These patterns will tell you everything you need to know about their intentions. And here's the truth. Someone who truly values you won't wait for a birthday or a holiday or a tragedy to show it. They'll be consistent. They'll show up in the ordinary moments, not just the extraordinary ones. Recognizing this is how you protect your peace and you keep moving forward. Protecting your peace doesn't mean shutting people out. It means setting boundaries. It means deciding that you're not going to let someone disrupt your healing process just because they suddenly realize that they miss you. It means recognizing that their timing, their messages, and their actions are not your responsibility to manage. Here's a practical tip. Before responding, ask yourself, does this serve my peace? If the answer is no, then it's okay to let that message sit unread, to let the call go unanswered. Protecting your peace isn't about being mean. It's about being intentional with your energy. And let's be clear, your peace is worth more than their closure. Your healing is worth more than their guilt. Choosing yourself in these moments isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's how you show up for yourself. It's how you show yourself the love and the respect that you deserve. Let's get real. Their timing isn't random. They know exactly what they're doing. When they reach out during your most vulnerable moments, like your birthday or after a tragedy, it's not a spur of the moment decision, I promise you. It's calculated. They're banking on the fact that your emotions will be heightened, that you'll be more likely to let your guard down and then welcome them back in with open arms. Think about it. When someone reaches out during these moments, they're relying on emotional cues to break through your boundaries. So they're hoping that your joy, your sadness, or even loneliness will make you more receptive to their return. It's not about them being there for you. It's about them getting what they need from you. And this kind of behavior reveals a pattern of selfishness where their needs are placed above your healing or your happiness. Here's the key. Recognizing that this isn't about you helps you to stay grounded. Their timing is designed to manipulate your emotions, not support them. So when you start seeing the pattern, remind yourself that you've grown past that point of letting them dictate how you feel or how you respond. And it's not just about the emotional cues. They also use the element of surprise. So they know that you're not expecting to hear from them, especially during those significant moments. And that unexpectedness that can throw you off balance. So suddenly they're in your head again. They're making you question your progress and they're making you wonder if they really care this time. But please do not be fooled. This isn't about reconciliation. It's about control. They're trying to pull you back into their orbit to test whether they still have a hold on you. When you recognize these tactics for what they are, it empowers you to take a step back and to see the bigger picture. Their timing isn't a coincidence. It's a strategy. And the best way to counter it is to stay centered in your own power. Remember why you went no contact in the first place. Remind yourself of the peace that you've gained since their absence. Their sudden reappearance doesn't have to disrupt your progress. It can serve as proof that you've grown strong enough to see through their games. Let's talk about emotional breadcrumbs. So these are the little messages, the quick check-ins, the strategically timed I miss you text. These things that will keep you within reach, but they never actually move the relationship forward. They're designed to give you just enough to keep you engaged without requiring for them to put in any real effort. Breadcrumbing is a tactic that thrives on inconsistency. They'll give you just enough to keep you wondering, to make you think, maybe this time is different, but it never is. Breadcrumbs are not an invitation to rebuild. They're a way to keep you hanging on for a while they figure out their next move. And let's be honest, they don't want you to move on. They want you to stay exactly where they left you. The way to combat this is to recognize that breadcrumbs aren't a meal. They're not enough to sustain a healthy connection, and they're certainly not worth your time or your energy. When you stop feeding into their crumbs, you take back your power. You stop allowing them to control the narrative, and you open the door to something more fulfilling. And think about this. Breadcrumbs are not just about keeping you close, they're about control. Each time they toss you a crumb, they're testing your response. Are you still interested? Are you still waiting for them? It's a way for them to gauge their hold on you without committing to anything real. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't play games. It doesn't string you along with these little tiny gestures designed to keep you hooked. Real love is consistent, intentional, and clear. Once you recognize breadcrumbs for what they are, that's when you can stop giving them value. Stop analyzing the I miss you text that comes after weeks of silence. Stop trying to read between the lines of those late night check-ins. Instead, ask yourself, does this align with the respect and the love that I deserve? Let the crumbs fall where they may. You're not starving for attention. You're waiting for a feast, a connection that feeds your soul instead of draining your energy. One of the first things they'll do when they decide to reach out is to test the waters. So it might be something as subtle as liking an old photo on social media or sending you a vague, hey, how you been message. They're not diving in. They're dipping their toe in to see how you'll respond. If you engage, it's like giving them the green light to push further. If you don't, it forces them to reevaluate their next move. Testing the waters is a way for them to gauge your emotional availability. Is she still mad? Has she or he moved on? Are you lonely? They want answers without having to outright ask those questions. And the reason this works is because it feels harmless. It doesn't demand much from them or from you. But don't let the simplicity fool you. It's a calculated move to reestablish a connection without taking accountability. Here's the thing. You don't have to respond. Silence can be your most powerful tool in these moments. If their approach is half-hearted, if it feels like they're back to fishing for an easy way to get back in, then let them sit with that ambiguity. Your time and energy are way too valuable to entertain anything less than genuine effort. And let's be honest, testing the waters is just another way of keeping the focus on them. They're not reaching out to check on you. They're reaching out to see where they still stand in your life. It's less about care and it's more about curiosity. They're testing to see if the door is still cracked open, if they can just slide back in without addressing the reason that they left in the first place. And that's where you have to be careful, because responding, even with a simple "I'm good," can give them the reassurance that they're looking for. They know exactly what they're doing. By starting small, they make it easier for you to rationalize engaging with them. Oh, it's just a like, it doesn't mean anything, but it does. It's the breadcrumb before the trail. It's their way of easing back into your life without putting in any real effort or offering any real change. And once you let them in just a little, it becomes harder to close that door again. The power lies in your ability to maintain your boundaries. Testing the waters only works if you allow it to. When you recognize their behavior for what it is, a strategy, to regain access to your life without accountability, you can make a conscious decision to protect your peace. Let their subtle messages stay unanswered. Let their likes go unacknowledged. It's not about playing games. It's about valuing your time and your growth enough to not entertain anything less than what you truly deserve. Closure is one of the most misunderstood concepts in relationships. We often think that closure comes from a final conversation, an apology, or an explanation. But the truth is, closure rarely comes from them. It comes from you. And when they return, it's usually not to give you closure. It's to create confusion and to keep the door open just enough to maintain control. Think about it. When they come back, are they offering clarity? Or are they adding more questions to the mix? Do they give you a heartfelt apology, or do they just want to see if you're still available? Their return isn't about making things right. It's about making sure they still have a place in your life. And when you let them back in, you risk reopening those wounds that you were starting to heal. Here's the truth. You don't need their return to find closure. You don't need their apology to move on. Closure is something you give yourself when you decide to stop looking back and to start focusing on your future. It's not about tying up loose ends with them. It's about cutting the ties that keep you stuck. So the next time they reach out, ask yourself this: why now? Why this moment? And more importantly, do I want to go back to what I've already left behind? Remember, their timing isn't a coincidence. It's a strategy. And the only way to win is to see it for what it is and keep moving forward. Thank you so much for watching. If this message resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. Share your experiences, your insights, and let's just keep the conversation going. I think a lot of people really need this, especially around this time of the year. So if you haven't already subscribed, hit that button so you don't miss the next video. And until next time, remember that you really are worth way more than their convenient timing. I promise you. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Love y'all. Bye.